Hey, it's Joseph here. I just noticed that I have not reviewed laptops for a while, and let's break that routine and get this one done. I actually had the unboxing video shot for this specific laptop, but it was so similar to WS66, so I just thought to give you a short montage of unboxing and merge that video with the full review, which is this video. And now this is a fast forward to today where I'm doing a full review of this laptop. So right off the bat, you'll actually notice the similarities with WS66 if you are aware what that laptop is or watched that video that I had posted a while back. And if you haven't already, I'll leave a link in the description for you guys to check it out. But today, this is a Creator 15 that is going to be somewhat similar to WS66, but with some differences. In short, the WS66 is part of MSI workstation lineup, which is sort of the top tier productivity laptops, but it actually comes at a cost. I mean, literally. So those of you who are needing a bit more balanced machine that isn't going to break your bank, then you need to turn your eyes towards the MSI Creator series. The Creator series is made for content creators and professionals and the type of person who moves around quite a bit, working on the go and actually needing performance whilst at it. So if you're one of those person, this laptop might be the right choice. And the rest of the video will explain why. And as a full disclosure, I have received this laptop from MSI for the review purposes, and I'll be returning it afterwards. The color of the laptop is the same carbon gray, is what they call it, and it looks professional and has a bit of blue tint to it. My camera doesn't probably do the justice in best picking up the color, but there you can kind of see it. And I try to leave some fingerprints to kind of give you the real world representation. There you can kind of see the fingerprints, but it doesn't collect as much. It does pretty good job of maintaining the overall look. And in terms of overall build, the body seems to be a mixture of metal and plastic, feeling solid and not too heavy for 15-inch laptop. The size is pretty much what I would expect from 15-inch laptop to be, and it has a boxy overall design with rounded corners. And speaking of the rounded corners, the front of the laptop seems to be capped with plastic plate. For this specific review unit, both bottom corners are actually chipped, the plastic portion, and it kind of exposes the sharp corners, and it can kind of catch on some of the fabrics or the backpack that you are going to put into. And I actually had noticed one of the corners was chipped on WS66 as well, so that is something that I have noticed. I mean, for these review units, people are not really handling it gently. It's being tossed around different people and they don't really look after these laptops anyways, but I just wanted to let you know that that may be the possibility. Other than that, the logo is quite subtle and it remains overall clean and minimal aesthetics. And at the bottom of the laptop, it does have a perforated panel for ventilation, and it does get quite warm when you're pushing the laptop. But on the normal usage, the laptop was quite comfortably lapable. And on the back of the laptop, some vents are in place, and it also states that it is Creator 15. Okay, let's move on to the ports, or specifically the side of the laptop. And starting from the left of the left side, there's gonna be the vent, and then DC charging ports, and then USB Type-C ports that is Thunderbolt, and also charging for this laptop, and then full-size HDMI port, and then USB Type-A port, which is at least 3.0 version, and then a charging LED that's on the right side of that. And then moving on to the other side, which is the right side of the laptop, starting from the left, there's going to be a headphone combo jack, and then USB Type-C, and then full-size SD card reader, and then the Ethernet port, and then the air vent. And the full-size SD card, along with omission of a couple of USB Type-A port, is something that is different to WS66. I would have appreciated if there were a few more USB Type-A ports, at least on this side as well. but I guess that's sort of a minor gripe. But it is good to see that full-size SD card reader is available for this laptop, because I'm sure a lot of creators gonna need to regularly access their SD card off of their laptops. And before we move on to the inside, let's look at the charger for this laptop. So this is the charger for this laptop. The overall output is 230 watts, and it's fairly big. I wouldn't say it is small. Obviously you can kind of compare it to the laptop, the overall size of it. Not necessarily something that you want to carry in your bag all the time. But because the laptop itself is equipped with powerful parts that requires a lot of power, you have to provide the required power, which is 230 watts. But the overall portability just kind of goes down as you have bulky charger that you need to carry around all the time. And usually when you use these chargers, after you connect to the power outlets, these portions kind of sit on the ground, whether it be dirt, concrete, offices, cafe, all sorts of different things that rubs against here, and they get abused quite a lot. So it is, I don't know, something that I'd rather not carry inside of my bag all the time. Just side of me doesn't want this kind of bulky thing that is always being carried around with me. So I have a bit of an alternative to that. So here is an alternative that I carry with me, a charging brick and a cable, so I can neatly just kind of bundle it together like this and put it inside of the bag, and they're both capable of doing 100 watt of power delivery. Yeah, so this is going to output less than half of what the original charger is going to output. However, it is a lot easier to carry this around than this bulky thing with a lot of cables that are hanging about. And I'm happy to report the fact that this laptop is also capable of charging via power delivery ports. The power coming from this brick over here. So if you connect the Thunderbolt port that is on the left side of the laptop, then you are actually able to charge this laptop. Obviously it is not going to charge at its maximum rate, so if you're actually pushing the laptop, you might actually consume more power than actually being charged. And also the laptop itself is going to throttle somewhat because it needs to reserve the power. So if you want to have the full potential of the laptop, you still do have to connect to your original charger. But if you're on the go, you probably aren't doing as heavy work, hopefully, and you can just kind of rely on this. And as you come back to your office or home where you do the most amount of work, then you can just connect the original charger to your laptop so that you're not missing out in terms of the performance and do the heavy tasks that you have been missing out. And I really like the fact that this charging brick has a prong that just kind of folds in and out so that you can just plug it on a wall. This thing doesn't drag on the floor, and it has a 2 different USB-C port for you to connect. So if you need to charge your phone at the same time, you can, although that is going to take some wattage off of the 100 watt that is going to go into the laptop, but that option is available for you. So I'll leave the links for both of these products in the description for you guys to go ahead and purchase. This specific one is from RAVPower. It does come with a USB-C to USB-C cable that is capable of doing 100 watts, but I kind of like the braided aspect of this, and this is actually 6 feet instead of 3 feet, and it is braided so it nicely folds and it doesn't get caught up in different things. And this one is from Choetech. I'll leave a link in the description for you guys to find that. And upon my testing, you need at least 65 watts of power delivery going into the Thunderbolt charging port of this laptop for it to be charging. Otherwise, it is just not going to charge. And occasionally you might need to carry around the big charger when you're planning on doing something like a VR presentation and you don't want to miss out on any performance. Therefore, you want to carry around the big one, but that is kind of occasional thing. Rather, you're going to carry this around all the time, or you should. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the inside of this laptop. And in terms of the overall layout of the MSI laptops, they have been kind of consistent, so I'm quite used to all of this. And from the top, you're gonna find 720p webcam on the very top, and then stereo microphones on either side. And in terms of the screen itself, it is going to be 1080p screen. The color accuracy, I find this screen to be quite accurate. It is 100% of sRGB, and you can actually fit it out with better grade screen in better resolution as well. But the specific model has 1080p, and it is actually touch panel, so you can actually touch on the screen, and I actually find that really handy too. So something that I use this for is for you to do some sort of snipping of the screen, and then once you do that, and then you can just kind of point out that, hey, actually there is a bit of a blob, I'm not sure what that is, and point that out to your client or the people that you are talking regularly with. It is quite useful to have that function, and being able to just basically navigate through your windows or the menu. With the touchpad, sometimes it becomes a little bit more of a hassle than just clicking on things as you operate your laptop. And that's why it says it is touch screen. And in terms of the screen, I find 1080p screens on 15-inch devices to be completely suitable. You really don't want to choke your machine by putting in 4K screen on your laptop. Then it is going to demand more performance, since it needs to calculate more pixels, and then therefore it is going to draw more battery or more power out of your battery. So I don't usually recommend having a higher resolution, but again, if that is something that you would like to have, I suppose you can do it. But I rather have 1080p on the road with me, because that usually is adequate. So if I were to choose between 4K and touch capabilities, I actually rather go for touch capabilities, because when you're having a laptop screen quite close to you, it is often easy to touch rather than finding the cursor and finding the location with your touchpad. And in terms of the laptop hinge, you can just open the laptop with one hand, and then you can push it all the way down to the table or the floor flat, and the hinge itself is feeling quite solid, so that is good to see. And right under the hinge, there's going to be a perforated panel for ventilation, and you can actually hear the fan turning on as the laptop wakes up. Then there's going to be keyboard that is lit, and when you type on the keyboard, it feels alright. It is a chiclet style keyboard, so it is not gonna blow you out of the water in terms of the tactile feeling, but I don't find it to be a problem. So typically when I'm doing a full review of a laptop, I usually spend time doing benchmarks, battery tests, and writing out the outlines for this video on this laptop, so I actually have a good feel of what this laptop is and how it performs. And as I write, there's a little thing that I have noticed in terms of the keyboard layout, and is the fact that there is a full-size up arrow key that is tucked between the shift key and the page down key, and as I type, I use my right pinky to hit the shift key that is on the right side, and then I end up hitting the up arrow key, causing the cursor to go up, which is kind of accidental, and I start writing a completely different sentence in a different row. So it's kind of annoying, perhaps something that you can get used to if you practice or be a bit more careful about it. So I just wanted to put that out there so that people are aware. It is consistent to what I have experienced before on different laptops, so it is not something new, but it is something that I have noticed this time as well. And in terms of something that I have complained before, touchpad is something that I actually have complained multiple times in terms of the MSI laptops. It is great. The touchpad itself is good. It is silky smooth and it is wide. It does have a fingerprint sensor if you're into that sort of things, but it is too wide to rest your hand on top of it. My right hand, the palm, is always resting on top of the trackpad. First, it's not really a nice thing when you're constantly pressing on it, so you're just kind of clicking on it. It does cause clicks when you're physically pressing down the trackpad. Not necessarily the touches, but that does happen occasionally, and that is something that I have complained about and have experienced on this laptop as well. On the either side of the touchpads, you're gonna find the slits for the speakers that is going to fire at you, which is a good thing. But in terms of speaker quality, I don't really care all that much, as I don't really use this laptop for enjoying the entertainment purposes. But you can have a listen. Okay, I think that's enough. And it did actually sound pretty good, but I'll let you be the judge. Although I have touched on the spec of this machine, here is the full list of the spec. Intel Core i7-10875H, 8-core 2.9 GHz, and 16 GB of DDR4, and then 512 GB of NVMe PCIe M.2 SSD, and then it is 15.6 inch 1920 by 1080 Full HD touch display, equipped with NVIDIA GeForce RTX 27 Max-Q, 8 GB GDDR6. So in terms of the graphics card, it is going to have 8 GB of VRAM, and it is a Max-Q variant because this is a laptop, although that often isn't as clearly communicated on the box. As you notice, it doesn't have the latest iteration of CPU and GPU, and I understand that they are actually working on the updated version of this laptop, so that is to be shipped out quite soon as well. But I still think this laptop is worth mentioning because it's pretty well balanced in terms of the performance to the budget ratio, and as the new one comes out, the old one goes on a sale and more people are going to be interested in buying this. So here's me kind of making the review of this video kind of late, but also we are going to expect another iteration, and I'll do the full review on that as I have that available. And as a next, let's talk about price of this laptop. This specific model sells about $2,000 normally, but there seems to be sale always, so you can find this laptop anywhere between $1,500 to $1,700. And if you were to aim for the lower SKU, you can actually find something that is lesser than that as well. And the pricing of this laptop always change. Different websites will show you different pricing, different season of the year will have different pricing, and sometimes you might be able to snatch a very good deal. But I think this specific model performs really well if it was priced somewhere around $1,700, and I'll flash the exact model SKU on the screen so you guys know what I'm comparing it to. But for the fact that you're getting 10th gen Intel i7 CPU that is going to well perform, as well as a good set of graphics card for it to handle all the graphics work, I think it's a very good deal. So I would definitely recommend this laptop for people who are looking for higher performance laptop, and in a 15-inch package, this is a pretty good deal, I feel like. Okay, the battery life. This laptop actually has 99.9 watt-hour battery. This always is a bit touchy subject, as your mileage can vastly vary depending on what you do and what your settings are. And I have tested and depleted the battery a few times. And when I was testing this laptop, I have gone from full to zero several times to make sure that my average time is correct. And on average, I was getting about 4 to 5 hours of usage on video streaming, outline writing, and 3D modeling. And obviously, if you're doing a type of renders or demanding tasks, then I would expect it to last lesser than that. However, I must appreciate the amount of battery hours that you can expect out of laptops like this these days. 4 to 5 hours of battery life is quite a lot for a performance laptop like this. I used to have a laptop that can barely last an hour that is similar or even lesser performance than this laptop. And now it's come a very long way in terms of battery life, that it can actually last several meetings in a short flight to somewhere else without hunting for a charger. So that's a very good thing. And in terms of the performance, I have run some benchmarks to see how this machine compares with others. The results are quite consistent with what I actually have expected for this laptop to fall based on the spec. And when you're looking at the benchmark results, keep in mind the fact that CPUs on laptops and desktops are pretty much the same. Yes, they are configured slightly differently, but in terms of the model name and the SKUs, they're pretty much the same, so you can kind of compare them directly. But when it comes to GPU comparison between desktop and laptops, even though they have the very same name after them, they're gonna have significant difference in terms of performance. And that's actually why I always recommend you to get desktops over laptops if you're looking for the performance. You're just not gonna get desktop grade performance of a GPU on a laptop. So if you're looking for benchmarks on the GPUs, you've got to look at the regular graphics card, which is the desktop version, and then the notebook graphics card, which is usually tiered much lesser than desktops. Let's start the benchmark results with Enscape. The two results at the bottom are from Enscape version 3.1, and I kept the older version's results for comparison, but you can actually see that the render took 102 seconds with version 3.0, and now with the same card it took 61 seconds. So it is apparent that there is a significant rendering time improvement because of the DLSS, and you can expect the RTX 2070 Max-Q in a laptop to do a bit lesser than RTX 2060 desktop card. So this is what I mean about the GPU and the laptop graphics card performance difference. Next up is Lumion. The WS66 and Creator 15 are the only ones that are using notebook or the laptop GPUs, and you can see that this is performing ever so slightly better than RTX Quadro 5000, and I would say this is within the margin of error test to test variance. And next up is V-Ray CPU benchmark, and you can see it doing really well since it has 8 cores, even better than my desktop. So all the CPU bound works are gonna be handled quite well with this laptop. And then the GPU benchmark of V-Ray shows that this is slightly better performing than some of MSI's own workstation laptops, and this is because of the specific test is CPU and GPU hybrid test, and its CPU performance adds to the overall performance score. This benchmark is courtesy of BIMbox measuring Revit performance. It is mostly CPU bound task and compares quite well with even desktops. Obviously, it will do less than other top tier CPUs such as i9 that was equipped inside of WS66. And the other CPU bound test is with Blender, and the result is quite consistent to other CPU bound tests, it performing better than even my current desktop. Lastly, this is a GPU test on the Blender, and it performs better than other laptops, but a bit less than other desktops. So the light blue is other laptop WS66. So in terms of the VR, I've decided to do this section as this is going to be the machine that I'm going to recommend if you are actually planning on doing any VR on the go. RTX 2070 Max-Q will be able to handle things quite comfortably, so let's run the VR inside of Enscape. So as you saw, it will handle everything just fine. So in conclusion, this laptop seems to be quite well-balanced machine. Depending on your budget, you can pick a spec that is slightly lesser than this, or even more if you're needing more performance. And overall pricing seems to be varying between $1,300 to $2,000 depending on the sale, the season, and the spec that you choose from. So for a mid to high performing laptop, it is an easy recommendation, and at the time of shooting there's a bit of sale going on, so you can choose laptop that is either slightly less or better than laptop for much less than what is MSRP. So if you have been in the market for getting a new laptop for AEC or content creation, then please use the link in the description. Whilst they are going to be the affiliated link, it doesn't cost you anything extra, it just helps to support the channel. So if you have enjoyed this content, please like this video and subscribe to my channel to continue watching these type of videos. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I'll see you next time. Bye.